Hey, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. My name is Shay Douglas from the Earth Heroes TV platform, Conscious Evolving Media. And today I'm really excited to have Dr. John Demartini back with us. We did an episode about a year ago with Dr. Espin on Dr. ETV and one of the channels on Earth Heroes. I'm really excited to invite him back to open up a conversation to dive a little bit more into the empowerment that it takes to be able to navigate all the changes that are going on in the world right now. So I want to thank you, John, for taking the time to join me today.
Inviting me on. I appreciate it.
Oh, it's an absolute honor. I've really enjoyed, tracking with all of the work that you're doing in the world, and love, just the empowerment and the solutions that you bring to change a lot of people's lives. And, just knowing your story from your upbringing, from not being told that that you could read a book, and the challenges that you had in education, to going on to doing what you're doing now in the world, with that persistence and that diligence to continue, is really inspiring for someone like myself as a young entrepreneur looking to make a difference in the world. So I really appreciate having someone like you to look up to, who's, paving the way for us younger generation. And I guess that's a big thing that I've really loved about your work, and what I've really observed from an outside perspective is you have this innate ability to tap into your emotional side of yourself. I remember when you did the interview with Dr. Espin and you were sharing one of the stories, you could really feel that you had this deeper connection. And for young men like myself growing up in this, Western cultural world, there are often a lot of times when I have suppressed a lot of my emotions. And I know the same story is for a lot of men, that they often haven't had the space to be able to fully express what they're really feeling. And I'm just curious, and I'd really love to hear your perspective on this, to enable not just men, but also women, this power that we have to really feel the feelings, to do the healing that's required for us to step into our empowerment, and how you've utilized that in your life to be able to use it as a power, use it as something that we can make a difference in the world, so that we can really drop in and connect deeper to ourselves. So I guess the question is around emotional mastery, but what is the importance of understanding how to master our emotions, and what is emotional intelligence really?
Okay. What I may say may sound a little unorthodox to some, so be prepared. We have different layers in the brain, and we have in the forebrain an executive center, executive functioning area, and we have subcortically underneath that an amygdala, and in between that a portion of the limbic system. And some people have defined our brain as having systems 1 and systems 2 thinking. One is survival, the other is thrival. One is feeling before you think, and the other is thinking before you feel, kind of thing. And whenever you have an imbalanced perspective, you immediately put on the feeler. And whenever you have a balanced perspective, you put on the thinker. Now, what does that mean? Well, the amygdala is designed for seeking prey and avoiding predator. And so things that support our values in life, that we are infatuated with, we become conscious of the upsides, unconscious of the downsides. And we activate the nucleus accumbens and the impulses to seek it. And we in order to survive, to get food, prey. And when somehow we've become conscious of the downsides, unconscious of the upsides, and things challenge our values, we now have an instinct to avoid it. And so the two most basic feelings is seek and avoid, prey and predator, pleasure and pain, reward and punishment, if you will. And the fear of loss of the things we seek and the fear of gain of the things we're trying to avoid are the two primary fears that underlie all fears that we face in life. Now, the executive center is designed to govern and dampen the amplitude of those polarities and to bring them more into a balanced homeostatic state for thriving. And that's called objectivity. Objectivity means neutral-minded. For subjectivity, which is a bias opinionated minded polarity that's needed for survival. Now, most of the time we don't need survival. We can be thriving, but we are trapped in survival mentality sometimes. So if we balance out our perspective and find the upsides to the things we are avoiding and the downside to the things we are seeking, and balance it and extract the mean out of it, as Aristotle said, the golden mean, we move from systems 1 to systems 2 thinking. We go from feeling to thought. And then we have fourth thought or foresight instead of hindsight, if you will. Now, there are 2 types of feelings. There are emotional polarized feelings: joy, sorrow, happy, sad, seek, avoid, pleasure, pain, elation, depression, admiration, despise, these parts, which are fractionated partial awarenesses. We're upside, we're seeing the upside, but we don't see the downside. Or we see the downside, we don't see the upside. And then there are synthesized feelings where you see both sides simultaneously. And these feelings are true love. Not the romantic love of infatuation, which most people confuse as love, which is dopamine driven, but true love, and agape love, and unconditional love. True grace, true inspiration, true entheos, enthusiasm, not excitement, which many people confuse with enthusiasm, but true enthusiasm, which is a poised state. True certainty. You're not in a wavering emotional state with partial awareness. And true presence. Those feelings are very profound, and they're a sign that we are seeing the whole, not the parts. And they spontaneously come out when we live by our highest value and are living authentically in a balanced way. See, when we infatuate with something, we tend to minimize ourselves. And when we resent something, we tend to exaggerate ourselves. We're too humble to admit what we see in others inside us. We're too proud to admit what we see in others inside us. We have a deflected awareness. We're too proud or too humble to see on the outside what's inside us. And we live inauthentically. Because when you're proud, you're exaggerating yourself. When you're ashamed, you're minimizing yourself. But when you are yourself and you see on the outside a balance and you see on the inside a balance, the transcendental feelings come alive. And now those are magnetically attractive because people want to be authentic and they want to be loved for who they are. And so anybody who demonstrates that draws and magnetizes people to them. So when I share feelings, I rarely show an emotion. I show a feeling that's transcendental. And I document on a daily basis what I'm grateful for. And if I see the upsides without the down, I find the downsides to counterbalance it. Otherwise, I'm infatuated. And if I see the downside, I find the other side. And I don't stop until I get a tear of gratitude. And that tear of gratitude is a very, very powerful state that is magnetic and that is what keeps you vitalized and keeps you inspired on a daily basis and grateful. Peter Lynch, in his book, One Up on Wall Street, said, when I'm deciding what stocks to buy, this is in the 90s, I do my technical and quantitative analysis. And then after I've got some stocks picked, I then go and get on my plane and I go and visit the actual headquarters of where these companies are. And I look for 4 things: people grateful for their job, loving what they do, inspired by the vision, enthusiastically working, highly skilled and engaged, which means certainty, and they're present with the customer or present with their project. He said, if I do that, I can guarantee that company is going to appreciate and value. And I really believe that that same thing occurs in us if we live our lives by the transcendental feelings and balance out our equation and the quality of our lives based on the quality of the questions we ask. We too can have that same state and appreciate and value in the contributions of service we can provide.
Wow, that's huge. I love that. That's a really great explanation for that question. And I'm curious to dive into that piece where you were talking about the kind of, you've had a really successful business life from my observations, and I want to go down that journey. But before we go there, I'm really curious to ask and to relate, particularly with relating to younglings and children coming of age who can often at times have quite expressive emotional experiences and necessarily have that, intellectual articulation of understanding of how their own brain is working or how they can drop into a state of gratitude. But there is this innate, sense that they are in this transcendental state, even though their brains haven't fully developed and they haven't matured into the being an adult, let's say. But I'm just curious, particularly even in the world, I feel it would have been great to have, learned some of this amazing knowledge that you're sharing with adults when I was a teenager or younger as well, to have that development earlier on. And it seems the world is evolving and growing, and education is shifting in that sense. But I guess, how do we also support the next generation who are coming alive, millennials or even younger, with and I sense it's really focusing on that early age, on that imprint period, to encourage them by example, like you're sharing in that gratitude practice. But what else can we do to really support the younglings coming of age to fully grasp the intelligence that's required with their emotions?
Well, Einstein said the greatest teacher is exemplification.
Yeah.
You said it. So you living it is more important than anything.
Mm-hmm.
If you're not walking your talk, no matter what you say, they're not going to listen.
Yeah.
So they're going to see BS when it comes out, But I'm they say in neurology that the forebrain is very commonly myelinated and more fully developed in the mid-20s to late 20s. And this is what's average. It's what's common. But I've had the opportunity to see 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13-year-olds develop an executive center at a young age because they found out what was really deeply prioritized and meaningful to their life. See, every individual, regardless of age, gender spectrum, or culture, has a set of priorities, a set of values, things that are most important to least important in their life at any moment. Whenever they're able to fill their day with the highest priority things that is most meaningful to them, the blood glucose and oxygen starts going into the forebrain and starts myelinating. The oligodendrocytes start myelinating that part of the brain. I mean, I've seen an 8-year-old who's reading 40 books a day, who knows what his mission is and is doing extraordinary things, and now he's 19 and he does consulting for about $1,500 an hour. He's doing consulting. He's 19 for executives. So here's a young man who found his mission at a very young age, targeted it, focused on it, put in his thousands of hours into it, and developed that area, and has very little interest in what typical teenagers do because he's on a mission. I met another young boy that at 3 knew he wanted to be the leading, brain specialist and brain surgeon. And he had read, by the time he was 11, every book on brain surgery he was able to get in his universities in the region, and had already seen brain surgery and already been in some of the surgical centers. So if you find out what is truly most inspiring, meaningful, and highest in priority in your life, and set sail as captain of your ship and start prioritizing your day and focus on that and master that, you can awaken the transcendental state at a very young age. So when we were in South Africa, we went to a Alexandra township, and we spoke to some thousands of kids there. And we did a pilot study at Alexandra High School. We took 800 students. The average pass rate in matric was 27%. So 1 out of 3 to 1 out of 4 were passing high school after all their schooling, their matric test. So what we did is we went in, and I spent time with the teachers and the students. And I went with the teachers and I sat them down and identified what their hierarchy of values were. I have a whole system for that. We then linked the classes they were teaching to those values. How specifically is teaching this class going to help you fulfill what's most meaningful to you? Because I believe that if you're not inspired to teach, you've already got a wall up against. No one wants to listen to you. If you're not inspired to teach what you're teaching, why should a child be sitting in front of you? So I basically showed them how to be inspired to teach what they were teaching by linking and making, neurological links on the content of what they were teaching and their values. And we spent 4 hours identifying the values and making links. Then we sat in the student. That was a week before classes started. Then the actual week of the classes starting, the first day is kind of an orientation day. And we sat and identified the students' values. We took the classes they were going to be taking, and we linked the classes to their values and showed them how these classes are going to help them fulfill what's meaningful to them. And it took, again, 4 hours. Then we had another session between the teachers and the students, because in South Africa, it was a kind of an autocratic system where I'm the one who knows and you're going to obey me, which is an insult to people. And what I did is I made the teacher memorize each of the children's highest values and not disrespect them by teaching them in any way other than way communicating in those values. So I taught them how to communicate what they wanted to teach in terms of these children's values and use examples of effective communication in what the child was inspired by, and to find out how their individual values of each child serve the teacher. How did that serve the teacher? Because otherwise the teacher says, that's not what's important. You need to be learning what I'm telling you. And it's an autocratic system. 1 year later, 97% of them passed matric.
That's phenomenal. Fantastic.
Because every child wants to learn.
Yeah.
They want to learn what's inspiring to them, what's meaningful to them, what's important to them. There's a genius in every child sitting there waiting, even in autistic children, which have geniuses sitting inside there, vast genius in there. And I believe that the teachers and the students deserve to be doing something they're engaged in and inspired by respectfully. And the moment you do, you wake up great things. I had 128 students one day from 7:30 in the morning till 7:15 at night. And I had a day with them, and their parents dropped them off, and they picked them up late at night after 7. And at 7, none of the kids wanted to go home. And we were full on. We had a 15-minute break once in the morning, a lunch break for an hour, 15-minute break in the afternoon. That was the only breaks we had all day. And they were fully engaged. We had them write out what they wanted to dedicate their lives to, what missions, how to communicate effectively, how to appreciate people. I mean, we spent the day helping them live their dreams. Nobody wanted to go to sleep. Nobody wanted to leave. The parents said, is this my child? I can't believe it. The children are standing up and speaking about what their dreams are. They're having tears of gratitude. And these were the kind of rejects kids labeled ADHD. They had all kinds of labels on them. Or disobedient. All this labeling stuff. I say that labeling is a byproduct of not respectfully communicating what you want to teach people in terms of what they are inspired to learn. And if you don't care enough to find out what they want to learn about, stay out of the teaching career.
That's huge. Thanks for sharing that story. That's absolutely phenomenal. And I just want to invite anyone who's listening or watching this video now, that the hierarchy of values that Dr. John Demartini is talking about, you can go to his website and do it. He's got it available on his website to do for free. So it's drdemartini.com, and you can have a look and really just tap into this amazing process that is, super empowering, inspiring us all to step into our own genius, our own power, our own inspiration of life. And that's just a phenomenal story to hear, John. And I'm curious, what does it really take for our leadership to adopt this model so that this could be implemented across schools across the world, and really the impact that would have on child development and even the adults today would just be phenomenal. I'm curious to hear your perspective on, where we're at in terms of the leadership in United States or currently across the world, and how we can potentially, shift that mindset potentially.
Well, I don't know if you've ever read the Rockefeller, I guess you could say, report. It's the primary intention of the school system was to create worker bees and drones, not independent leaders and thinkers. And so the school system is not necessarily I found as I implemented this, because I have a program called Teaching Today for Tomorrow, where we do this. And I found that the schools that were mainstream mass marketed schools had less interest in this than the independent schools that were more competitive in trying to get children to excel. It was interesting to see. The ones that had excel, they took it on. The ones that were just interested in creating drones, they were not interested in waking up, because it's not easy to control people who are independently thinking.
Well said.
They're wanting to autocratically do that. And so you have to ask yourself, where do you want to play in the game of life? Every individual has the capacity to be fitting in as one of the herd, or standing out as one of the, impactors of the world, the misfits in the world. But if you want to make a difference, you're not going to make a difference fitting in. You're going to make a difference standing out. And if you're going to stand out, you have to express your unique hierarchy of values. And to be great is to be misunderstood, as Emerson said. And to walk the path of an unborrowed vision, as Ayn Rand said, is to automatically get ridiculed, violently opposed, until you become self-evident, until you make some sort of paradigm shift. And we see that today, even with Bezos, and we see that with Elon Musk. They get ridiculed and violently opposed and challenged and laughed at until they do something extraordinary. And then people, all of a sudden, a new paradigm is born. If you want to make a new paradigm, you have to be unique enough to have the courage enough to be yourself. The magnificence of who you are is far greater than any fantasies you'll impose on yourself trying to be somebody second at being somebody else. I'm not interested in being a second Elvis. I'm not even interested in being an Elvis. I'm interested in being number one at being me, Dr. Demartini. I got asked by Vogue magazine one time. They said, Dr. Demartini, they asked me 17 questions. And the last question was, Dr. Demartini, if there's anybody in the world you could be, who would you want to be? And I said, Dr. John Demartini, nobody else. Why would I want to be anybody else? And they went, oh, really? That's not what most people ask. They usually fantasize about somebody else and live in the shadows of people instead of standing on the shoulders of giants.
Yes, I love that. And those who are listening in, I'm definitely going to be doing this, but go back and just listen to that last 2-minute grab. Wow, that's so good and inspiring for impactors who really want to make a difference. Got to stand out and be yourself. I just love it. It's so inspiring. I've got a really unique question. It just came to me as you were sharing there, and I really like your answer to Vogue magazine. But who would you be? You would want to be yourself. But if you had the chance to sit at a dinner table and have a dinner table with anyone in the world, 3 people, let's say, dead or alive, who would you sit with and have dinner with?
When I first moved home from Hawaii when I was 18 years old, and I had been given a little phrase by Paul Bragg to say to myself to help me overcome my learning problems and speaking problems. He said, I want you to say to yourself every single day that I'm a genius and I apply my wisdom. And I didn't know what that meant even, but I started saying it. And then I came home and I told my mom that, because I'd lived in Hawaii for a number of years and came back and visited my mom in Texas. And I said, well, who exactly and what exactly is a genius, Mom? And she said, people like Albert Einstein and Da Vinci. And I said, well, then get me every book and everything that's ever been produced and created or written about them. I want that, Mom. So if I was to have the opportunity to sit, and Albert Einstein passed away in 1955. I was born in 54, so I was only a year old when he was around. But I would probably sit with Albert Einstein and Da Vinci. They're both polymaths. And I love studying, learning, and standing on the shoulders of most polymaths in life. The people that had original thinking and that were so engaged and so inspired in delving into what their love and expertise was, that they just hit it from every angle and they create original ideas. These are the great, originators. I'd like to hang out with the originators. And these 2 have been special to me since I was 18. Those are the 2.
Nice. That's so cool. Thanks for sharing. And I love how you're really honoring that, essentially the teachers that have come through that you're now standing on the shoulders of and passing on. And I'd like to consider myself also standing on the giants of people like yourself, learning, soaking up your wisdom and learning from your pioneer pathway that you've led through your life and the legacy and the teachings that you offer. I'm curious, to kind of explore that business element to it, because in today's world, it'd be nice if we, could all just live free and didn't have any money, and we could all be happy and merry. But at the end of the day, we've got to make a living for ourselves, and it's empowering to know that we have that opportunity to step into the world of exchange and offerings, and be able to be empowered to help our community more and help people more by generating more revenue and distributing that fairly. So I'm curious what I had the question, what is the number one key to success in business from your experience in your life?
Oh, okay. I'll develop this. I'm going to say in one short phrase, sustainable, fair exchange and transactions that meet and fulfill fully the highest dominant buying motive and highest value of the giver and receiver. So what does that mean? If you exaggerate yourself and you puff yourself up and you look down on people, your employees or customers, you won't meet their needs. You'll be caring less about them than yourself, and you'll be narcissistically projecting your assumptions onto the marketplace, and you'll probably get humbled, pride before the fall, because you won't meet the people's needs, and there'll be no demand, and you'll have a supply without demand. If you minimize yourself and put them on a pedestal and exaggerate, which many people have done in business, they've exaggerated the importance of a customer over and above what they deserve, and had a false attribution bias on a celebrity and thought, oh, I want to do business with this person or something. And they minimize themselves, they'll sacrifice their profits, and they have anarchy in their business. And then they'll eventually say, I deserve better than this. The feedback from the universe will humble you if you're above equilibrium and lift you if you're below equilibrium to try to get you back in equilibrium. Equity, we call it. But once you have a pure reflective awareness that what you see in them is inside you and vice versa, and you don't put them on pedestals or pits, you put them in your heart, and you care enough about humanity to find out what their needs are, the individual needs, the real dominant needs out there where there's a demand, and you find the thing that you're really inspired that you can't wait to tap dance to work to do, as Buffett said. You can't wait to get up in the morning and serve. People can't wait to get your service. When you're inspired by your highest value and you're committed to fulfilling that, and you do it in a way that's meeting other people's highest values, you found your niche. Mine just happens to be teaching in an area of human behavior. But if you look carefully, the billionaires, there's one common thing to the billionaires that you see is that they've created a business that serves ever greater numbers of people and meets a real need, and providing it in the most effective and efficient pathway with the resources they have, and more effective than their competitors. And that most efficient pathways is a law of efficiency. And when people live by their highest values, they're more efficient. So you can't wait to get up in the morning and be of service, and you find what they can't wait to get as service, and find that niche, and you'll be amazed at what happens in business. Because now you're inspired to go and be with them, and they're inspired to be with you, and demand meets supply.
Wow, that's so good. I love that perspective on business, and I've definitely taken a few notes throughout this last 30 minutes conversation here, and I'll be going back and listening to this conversation. But I just wanted to encourage everyone who's listening again or watching this video, go and learn more about what Dr. John Demartini does. Go to visit his website. And I also want to invite you just to like and share this video with your friends. If you really feel that this has been valuable, let us know what you've really enjoyed out of this, because there has been so many gold nuggets and some great stories of John's time in South Africa here, where particularly working with the students and the importance of educating that next generation through humble leadership, I would say, from my perspective, and what you're doing and serving in the world. And I just really want to thank you again. Is there anything in the pipeline before we close it out that you've got that's really exciting, that is, that's getting you up in the morning, and that you're looking forward to, John?
Well, I do three things. I teach, research, and write. I learned at age 27, don't do desperate things. Find the highest priority, most inspiring areas of expertise that your core competence is about, and delegate the rest away. So I only teach, research, and write. I don't have anything else on my plate to do. Everything else is, I'm surrounded by people that do all that. And I have so many things that are in the pipeline. I mean, I've got books that are in the making. I've got movies, documentaries coming out. We've got films. We've got all kind of things going. And anything, as far as I'm concerned, when I was 17 years old, the night I met Paul Bragg, I saw a vision of me standing in front of 1 million people sharing a message. And I've always been a man on a message. I'm not interested in success or failure. Those don't affect, those are just distractions, those terms.
Yeah.
And if you remember what your mission is and you focus on your mission and you let your mission, be your dominant thought and prioritize your actions and delegate the rest and stick to what your core competence is and build quantum momentum, incremental momentum, mastering that, you'll be unstoppable. I just think that people deserve to not do desperate things. And so often we get caught thinking we have to do the lower priority things, which scatter us and multitask us instead of super task us and get into the thing that's absolutely inspiring to us. You're not going to have an inspiring life doing low priority things. Your
Yeah.
self-worth will go down doing low priority things. Your self-worth will go up if you just stick to what your greatness is.
Yeah, that's so true. That's so good. I love that vision as well, standing in front of millions of people and sharing your message. If that opportunity was right now and you had 1 million people right in front of you, you had 30 to 60 seconds, what message would you share with those people in this moment?
I would tell them that the magnificence of who you are is far greater than any fantasies you'll impose on yourself. Don't subordinate to the world on the outside. Don't live in anybody's shadow. Stand on the shoulders of giants by looking inside yourself, and anything you admire in people who've done something extraordinary, go find out where you already have it. Nothing's missing in you. At the level of your true self, nothing's missing. At the level of your false personas, there are things you think are missing because you're too proud or too humble to admit you have it, but nothing's missing. So stand on the shoulders of giants, reflect and see where you have it, and give yourself permission to go after what you really would love to do. Your life will go by too quick to do anything else.
Wow, so powerful. Thank you so much, John, for sharing that and sharing your time with myself and the audience. Really hope you guys got a lot out of this. Again, I'll leave the link up to go and watch. I go to his website. Exciting to hear about a documentary coming out. That is pretty cool. And again, guys, really just share this video wide. Leave us a like and hope you have the best day. John, really appreciate your time once again.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Well, we'll see you next time, guys. Thanks for joining us and have a wonderful, wonderful day.